This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
How would you like to get more customers, make more profits, and have bigger breakthroughs? Get Doberman Dan's profit-boosting breakthroughs. Normally, this would cost you $98 per month, but right now, for listening to this show, he's giving you a free copy of his Doberman Dan letter. All you have to do is go to DobermanDan.com and sign up to get your free copy now.
Prepare yourself for the uncensored, nothing held back, no BS reality of how business and life really work. Doberman Dan is off the chain.
Joe Nathan, you ever heard of Berklee College of Music?
I have.
Berkeley, Berklee. Is the spelling, by the way? Everybody thinks it's Berkeley, California. It's not. It's in Boston.
I see. Maybe I haven't heard of it then.
Well, you ever heard of Juilliard?
Yes.
So the way it was explained to me is Berklee College of Music is the Juilliard of modern music. So Juilliard being like the premier place for classical music education. Berkeley would be like the premier place for more modern music. At least that's how it was explained to me. And that was the reputation that they had back in the 80s when yours truly won a scholarship to the Berklee College of Music. Did I ever tell you that story?
Wow. No. Tell us how you got a scholarship to Berkeley.
It was at a jazz festival that the Barberton High School Jazz Band played at. And so it was, they selected certain soloists for the scholarship. And I won the scholarship to Berkeley, which I thought was the coolest thing in the world at the time. And it seemed like an enormous amount of money. I think it was $5,000, which to me back then, was a lot of money. Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, that was 1983. So when you factor in inflation in today's dollars, that works out to be 2.3 trillion, unless I got the math off a little.
With inflation and the deficit.
Yeah, that's right. 2.3 trillion in today's dollars. So yeah, it was a lot of money to me then. And I was actually singing, I got $5,000. I got $5,000. Prior to Wayne's World, I was a trendsetter, the Wayne's World copy. So I didn't wind up going to Berkeley, by the way. Because the air was quickly let out of my balloon when 5,000 wouldn't have even covered one semester. It was probably going to be closer to 15,000 for the year, which was simply not an option because, my family was po. So I think I've had this chip on my shoulder about college ever since then. I got to see almost all of my friends get to go to college on their parents' dime and have this big, long 4-year orgy with all kinds of drugs and alcohol. And I think I've been pissed off about it ever since because I never got to enjoy that. And actually, sometimes I still get upset that I didn't get to study music. But I've met a lot of people who went to Berklee College of Music or MI, Musicians Institute, or name any other really prestigious music college. And as a musician, after 4 years there at the music college, they suck, dude. They ain't a player. They still can't play. They can spew off all kinds of really complicated stuff about music theory, but 4 years at a music college does not a player make. And I used to think that was exclusive to music schools, but I'm finding that to be true in many cases about many universities. Did you go to college, Jonathan? I know the answer, but I still want you to say it.
I wasn't qualified for college.
Well, be thankful for that because, for a lot of reasons. I mean, first of all, put aside the fact that college campuses, basically for the past 40 years, have been infested with with Marxist professors and this whole Marxist ideology whose only mission is the brainwashing of the gullible youth and get them indoctrinated into the Marxist theology. So there's one thing, you avoided by not going to college.
Oh, no.
And I'm seeing all kinds of young people, even certain people who are very close to me, graduate from really prestigious universities after 4 years or with graduate degrees, end up 6 figures in debt, and they can't even find a job to support themselves. I'm talking about people with graduate degrees, law degrees, man. They can't even find a job making a livable wage. So I guess, all the stuff we're sold about the college edumacation ain't exactly working out too good, is it? To use good English.
Doesn't sound that way.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, excuse me. Forgot the proper pronunciation. I learned from my mom, who got her edumacation in dirt poor poverty in Mississippi. And you ain't seen poverty until you done seen Mississippi poverty. So that's the proper pronunciation of the word thang. I know it's true because that's how my mom used to say it. The only real education is self-education. And I'm going to tell you what I think, at least based on my experience, has been the best education ever. But, really college educated, which used to carry a lot of weight, obviously ain't carrying the weight that it used to anymore. And even employers are figuring out that at best, what it says about you in many cases, it just proves that you've got the capacity and the discipline to retain information and then, like an obedient little robot clone, regurgitate it back in exam. And then once you've regurgitated that information, you can just forget it. But retain it long enough to vomit it back in an exam, and you can get yourself one of them there degrees in your college edumacation. I think, therefore I am, I believe you would learn more valuable and profitable life skills selling vacuum cleaners door to door for a year than you would from any graduate degree. Because here's what us'ns have done figured out. Us dumb, uneducated entrepreneurs, the people who make this world go round, have figured out. And that is, the best education in the world is being an entrepreneur. Because those who stick with it and persist in spite of the never-ending, continual, gut-wrenching failures, which if I didn't, if I wasn't completely redundant already, now let me be even more redundant, because I used to work for the Department of Redundancy Department, which, by the way, these continual gut-wrenching failures never end. It's not like, oh, I've graduated. I've learned the lesson of being an entrepreneur and now everything's just smooth sailing. No, they never end. Those who persist in spite of that, those are the people who eventually realize this. You can't grow your business until you grow yourself first. You can't get to the next level in business, in profits, and all that good stuff that everybody wants and remain the same person you are today. That's why I think that being an entrepreneur is the best edumacation and best self-improvement program in the world. And no college edumacation in the world can ever produce anything near as good. Good being spelled G-U-D by us dumb, uneducated entrepreneurs.
Us little heathens. I gotta, there's two parts to learning, right? And I agree with you, because there's the one part where it's the book learning that you do in school. And I was really, really bad at school. In fact, I took summer school. I think we talked about this. I took summer school to graduate high school. So book learning and sitting in a classroom didn't agree with me. But that's only half the learning, right? What about the application? You never get the application of your knowledge. And that's why being an entrepreneur is so fun, because you can learn something from Doberman Dan today when he tells you to do something cool, and you can go immediately and apply it and see if it works. And when you do the application of whatever you learn, that's where the learning, I believe, really happens.
I agree. And I will add this to that. When you do that kind of stuff and it doesn't work, that's also when the edumacation happens, or at least that's when it did for me when I realized, okay, this is not working for me. But wait a minute, it's working for other people. So what the heck am I doing wrong? There's obviously, I'm not interpreting this right. I'm not implementing it right. There's mindset issues that are screwing it up for me. All that stuff. That's why I said the persistence of what is necessary in being an entrepreneur. That's the best darn edumacation in the world. You might even find yourself getting to the place where you get to the tippy top, very best of the best and most profitable edumacation, after decades of just persisting and moving forward in spite of the continual failures and challenges you face as an entrepreneur. Many people actually arrive at the place that Socrates described.
Nice.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. I know it's pronounced Socrates, but still, I'm personally amused by saying Socrates. So when Socrates said, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. And I believe Socrates actually did say nothing. He didn't say nothing. He said, and knowing that you know nothing. It's actually, it's what the Chinese call shoshin, which is the beginner's mind, is you just approach it like, okay, as an expert, I would normally know like 3, 4, 5 things that would work. But, now you've even risen above the expert mind and you're approaching all your projects with a beginner's mind and admitting, I know nothing about nothing, just like Socrates said. And so let me look at this as a beginner. And then the edumacation continues.
I think that beginner's mind is actually pretty powerful because I feel like and there's probably been smarter people than me that have said it, but as an entrepreneur, we're out there having our adventures, and it's almost as if we learn more from our failures. And that the failures force you into that beginner's mind because you think you know it all, and you fail. You have to figure out, okay, where I'm wrong, I'm not doing this right. And it puts you in a better place, a more humble place where you can learn more.
Yeah, for sure. It's basically like 9 things out of 10 don't work. Or in my case, in my beginning years, more like 99 things out of 100 don't work. So it's the dude or dudette who persists to getting to that thing 100 to finally figure out what does work. So it's not that you failed 99 times. You just had 99 really super valuable learning experiences.
How do you find that persistence, Dan? How do you dig in and keep going 99 times out of 100?
That's a good question. I've asked myself that before. I think a really important thing is insanity. Because any sane person would have quit. And maybe that's, why sane people, God bless them, they have jobs and they're not entrepreneurs. And it's just the crazy ones who choose this life because it makes no logical sense whatsoever to keep persisting in spite of what is never-ending failures. That's all this is. And, I have to sit back and evaluate why I kept going. Probably because back when I had a job, the prospects of that were extremely depressing to me.
Yeah.
It was, I was going to be broke my entire life because raises wouldn't even keep up with inflation. In my old gig, 65% of people were dead within 5 years or less after retirement. And, and most guys were retiring in their 50s, by the way, because you just needed to put in back then 25 years in Ohio Police and Fire to retire. So, the future was really grim for me. So I guess just the mere hope kept me going because I showed zero success whatsoever for 9 straight years. But, like I said, any sane person should have quit and just should have resigned themselves like, oh, I'm just going to stay at my job and life is going to suck, and maybe I'll have a couple good days every weekend or so, or every other weekend or something. But, the hope that it could be better is what kept me going. Plus, knowing that when some other human being has done something, then what's to prevent you from doing it too? I mean, nobody's got nothing over on you. So if one other dude or dudette can do it, why not you? I guess that those were two of the bigger factors that kept me going.
No kidding. To push through for 9 years is kind of a big deal. So during that 9 years, were you still working as an employee or did you go out on your own? How did that look?
I still kept the day job because if not, I would have been sleeping in a cardboard box under a bridge abutment and eating out of dumpsters.
So a follow-up to that, do you think that had you left your job, you might have been more motivated to make it happen sooner, or do you just think that's how long it was going to take either way?
That's a good question. I've thought about that a lot because one can get really resourceful when you're shoved into a position of absolute necessity. Like I used to look at the drug addicts on the street, and some of those people, had a $200 a day habit.
Wow.
And that they had to support. And when you did the numbers, they were making six figures a year in income. Now they were on the street hustling. All right. So maybe they weren't doing it in the most honest and ethical way. Maybe it was burglaries. Maybe it was, we don't want to go there. Let's just say they weren't doing it in the most honest and ethical way, but they hustled and they made six figures a year. Some a homeless dude on the street to support his drug habit. So yeah, necessity can be a really strong motivator. Looking back now, I'm glad I kept the full-time job because my mindset was just crap. And that was one of the biggest things that held me back.
Wow. I feel like that's a whole, I don't know if we've done one, but we have to do a show again, if we've already done one, on those mindsets and those limitations, because we're our biggest roadblock. I totally believe that. So Dan, we're wrapping up. We're coming up to the end of another one. What do you have coming up for next time?
I'm going to talk about America's new war against you.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that. So that's a wrap for another Off the Chain show. Thank you, K9 Crew, for tuning in. Thank you, Doberman Dan, for dropping your wisdom on us. We will be back with you next time. Thanks for listening. And remember, if you want to create rivers of revenue from your existing customers, then the next thing you need to do is go to DobermanDan.com. He's giving away a free copy of his $98 per month Doberman Dan letter just for listening to the show. Go to DobermanDan.com now and sign up for your free issue.
This is the podcastfactory.com.